analysis for week 4. I'm Jason Gilbo, J Gilbo 11. With me is Justin Elick at Big Italy 42. Looking at wide receiver plays, really top through bottom in terms of salary. A lot of different ways you can go. And a couple guys here, who I know we'll talk about Terrell Pryor in a little bit, but he's a big kind of side difference guy in terms of how you can use him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's $2,700 more on FanDuel, $7K, $4,300 on DraftKings. On DraftKings, he seems like an obvious kind of plug and play, really in any format, especially due to his versatility and huge role in that offense now. But on FanDuel, not a guy that I'm going to be playing in cash games. I think he's a great GPP option because he does have that upside. But at $7K, there's some guys at similar price tags there that I think you need to have. Guys like Marvin Jones, who are only $600 more. I think that's an obvious decision if you're deciding between those two for similar prices. But I definitely don't think that a complete fade of Pryor on FanDuel is a smart move because this is a really bad Redskins defense, and I think he certainly has a decent floor due to his volume in that offense. I don't know how that he has last week's upside each week, but I mean, this is still a guy top 10 in the league in targets. So even if he doesn't throw passes or run the ball, which I imagine he'll probably do both anyway, he still has a nice floor of probably 10 plus targets in this game.
Yeah, it definitely does. So GPP at that price, you're looking at a pretty good bet for some high upside. Cash game at that price, I mean, obviously you touched on Marvin Jones, who you kicked off the article with at 7,600. Great play this week against the Bears secondary that's really banged up.
Yeah, I mean, Marvin Jones has been one of the best receivers in football this year. And, I mean, Matt Stafford has thrown 39, 40, and 41 passes in 3 games. So you just know he's going to throw the ball 40 times a game. Jones has come over and just become the obvious number one option for this offense. And he, in a game that I kind of hope it turns into a shootout. If the Bears can score some points, it definitely will because neither one of these defenses is particularly good. But, you know, Marvin Jones, deep play threat. I saw his big play percentage is 31% this year. Obviously, he's not going to continue to do that. But, you know, this is a guy that's seeing volume. He sees looks in the red zone. I mean, he's got upside. We saw 200 yards last week. He had a 4-touchdown game a couple years ago. Anybody who's seeing 10-plus targets in this offense is a guy that I'm interested in for cash games because Matt Stafford, especially with Abdullah out, just loves to throw the ball.
Yeah, no, I like him a ton. I mean, he's a guy who in all formats I'm going to be plugging in a lot of. Antonio Brown, you talk about here next, 9,400. You know.
It's Antonio Brown, and he's playing against, you know, anyone. Like, not to seem like we just are just keeping it that simple, but it is that simple. You know, if you have the salary, which you do this week, because there's just plenty of guys that are cheap across the board. I mean, you go cheap with 2 running backs that you can actually feel good about. There's some cheap wide receivers you can pair in there. And, you know, probably not paying up all the way up at quarterback either. So, I mean, there's plenty of salary to go around that you can get yourself your kind of obligatory Steelers, either Brown or if you want Le'Veon Bell at running back. You can really get either one, and it's not going to put you out this week.
No, it's definitely not. I mean, one, you look at the matchup. I mean, obviously the Chiefs, you know, they're an above average defense for sure. But as you mentioned, it's just Antonio Brown. It doesn't really matter at this point with the workload and what he does.
And they're not as good as they were last week, let's be honest. They're a good defense, but Ryan Fitzpatrick was drunk last week or something because that's a good defense, but
he was
you're
hammered.
Not going to see. Yeah,
he was hammered drunk.
I don't know why they didn't just pull him and just stop the bleeding near the end. But, yeah, it was – I could have not thrown 6 touchdowns or interceptions last week. That was embarrassing. That was the worst probably I've ever seen.
It's just nice. It must be nice to have a Harvard degree to back up on. Like, oh, you know, if they cut me after my 5-interception game, I can just go get a job and make more money than I did, you know?
Yeah, at the end of the day, they say, what the hell, man? You throw 6 picks, and he's like, Harvard. He's like, I'm still smarter than you. He's like, yeah. I just felt like throwing 6 picks. You know, you're as smart as he knew better. Let's be honest. He bet some weird Vegas over prop on 5.5 interceptions on himself or something. Because there's no way he would even want to still be on the field after throwing like 4 or 5.
Yeah, he got top balls in there. He was like, I'll cut you a deal. Let's get this together.
Yeah, it was a challenge. They said, I bet you can't throw 6 picks. He proved somebody wrong. Proved everybody wrong last week.
Looking at GPP, guys, we talked about Terrell Pryor. Your other one here you talk about is Kelvin Benjamin, who burned probably a lot of people last week. given the fact that he didn't get a catch. But a nice matchup here. 7,700, certainly a reasonable price tag as well.
Yeah, I mean, he was a guy that I fortunately dodged last week. It's not to say that I thought he was a bad play because I mean, he wasn't a great play, but he's still, I mean, this is a guy that it's absolutely baffling. I don't think he even got that one target he had until the fourth quarter. So Cam Newton probably going to realize pretty quickly, and there's been talk about it all week already, that we screwed up by not getting him the ball. Duh. Obviously, that happened. I mean, Benjamin's not just an average receiver. I mean, this guy is enormous. 6'5", 243 pounds. I mean, he is one of the bigger targets in all of football. And obviously, he'll probably see some Desmond Trufant this week. But this Atlanta team has given up almost 1,000 yards through the air. And only them and the Lions have given up 10 or more touchdown passes so far this season. So this is a defense that's given up at least 3 touchdown passes each week. And Cam Newton's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. We'll kind of give him a pass for last week because that Minnesota defense, we're quickly realizing is legit. I mean, that's one of the better units in football right now. So this is definitely a perfect bounce back spot. And recency bias is definitely key in something like this because you see the news reports. People say, now's the time to get back on him. But I don't think he's going to have much ownership this week because people think that is his floor. And I just can't fathom him having a game like that again. Maybe ever again in his life.
No, I can't either. And I like the Panthers as a stack this week for that reason. I think Benjamin Olsen is great guys to pair with Newton. It's expensive, but certainly can pay off against this Falcons team that you've pretty much just highlighted as being, the worst. I mean, almost close to the worst defense in the league so far through the air, tossing up some of these passing numbers.
Yeah.
So, value wide receivers, you talked about Cole Beasley, 5,200. And I think at the beginning of the week when I was editing your article, I was like, this could be the guy we talk about in terms of being the one we disagree on. But now that Des Bryant's gone, I think he is more of a FanDuel play as well now. Obviously, you like the full point PPR scoring, but I think given his volume, 5,200 at that price, FanDuel's okay too.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of by default. He's the number one option there. We've seen Terrence Williams be a decent option at times when he's been, kind of the pseudo number one there, but he's not a guy I have a whole lot of faith in. He's more of a deep ball threat. And I mean, I just don't see the Cowboys taking a lot of chances down the field. They really hardly have done that this year, even with Des Bryant on the field. So I just don't think that's the type of offense they're going to run. Cole Beasley's not a guy that you're going to game plan against to try to stop because the 49ers, you're worried about just keeping things in front of you, obviously, in this matchup. And that's bodes really well for Cole Beasley because, I mean, pretty much all he does is catch those underneath passes, little out routes. He's got great hands. I think he's got a great floor. This isn't really a GPP play because I don't think he has much upside. He's not, like we said before, not a red zone threat really, not a deep play guy because he's small, but definitely a guy that by volume alone, I mean, wouldn't be surprised to see him rack up 8 or 9 catches this week. And I mean, he's seeing about 6 a week so far already, even with Brian on the field.
Yeah, I think, if you're looking to jam a bunch of high-priced guys in there, Beasley might be kind of helpful to do that with. If you're looking to get Brown and pay up a running back spot or quarterback or use Cam Newton, Beasley kind of helps alleviate salary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tyrell Williams, your next guy here, 6,400, going up against the Saints secondary. That's not good. If they're missing their their starting corner, just it's one of the most easiest things to do is just target a Saints defense. Like you just look and go who plays in that week, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, and even the one week where we saw the Giants kind of let people down against the Saints, it wasn't horrible. We just didn't see touchdowns from the passing game, and that one, the defensive touchdowns, what happened. But it's kind of a low risk play as well because he's not expensive. $6,400 is a lot more pricey than what he is on DraftKings. I think he's 44 there. But I mean, that's kind of the trend this week and most weeks. You can get guys for cheap. DraftKings makes it really easy for you to cram in any top guys you want really in any lineup. So on FanDuel, you got to get a little creative. Obviously, Travis Benjamin is going to be more popular this week, but we kind of mentioned it on the DraftKings pod. I think Tyrell Williams has seen more red zone looks, 6-4 over Benjamin. He's a guy that, he's not as much of a deep play threat, but he's a guy that's still seeing a good volume of targets and kind of quietly flying under the radar here. So I definitely want a piece of that San Diego offense. Certainly Melvin Gordon's going to be the guy you lock in first, but for me, I'm taking Williams over Benjamin here this week.
Yeah, I am too. I think that floor, just overall, his style of wide receiver play is just more safer in terms of what you can get out of him. And as you mentioned, the red zone targets. I like Williams. I think Benjamin's always kind of that popular guy, but I think Williams is kind of the more safer option.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
So that's going to wrap things up with the FanDuel wide receiver analysis for week 4. Be sure to head on over to dailyfantasycafe.com and check out our great tools and content.